Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Final Fantasy XIV reaction. Today we have another one from my executive producer Crosslancer, who wants me to get to this one, which I can't tell if it's pronounced eScape or escape, because it kind of could go either way, truly. But apparently this is from floor 11 of the Omega raid in Final Fantasy XIV, and that's about all I really need for the context here. I've heard plenty of these songs from these events through Final Fantasy XIV already, so I guess today is just another one of those, and I'm gonna have to see what it's all about. So without further ado, let's go! Starting off very strong with the vibes. Masayoshi Soken yet again. Having fun with the genres, doing whatever. Kind of loving the guitar, actually. It's a very fun pattern. I'm also really liking how the vocals are mixed in here. At first I wasn't sure how to feel, but I'm kind of digging that, actually. The filters, at first I was like, that might be a little bit much, but it fits really well, and I don't know how to explain why. There's so many words at this portion of the lyrics. Ooh. Change up. Going halftime. Kind of weird to hear the drums change that much, that quick. Oh, see, there we get a bridge. The last time we didn't even get that, you know? There was no transition. I think this specific guitar pattern reminds me a lot of like the late 90s, early 2000s. A lot of like more pop punky stuff had a very similar pattern to them. Maybe pop punk. This song really isn't pop punk necessarily, though, which is why it sounds so fun, but also it's like, it's just kind of like alt rock, you know? But it definitely has more of like a pop edge to it. And that transition, there's really nothing. It just kind of jumps in. That's not a bad thing. It's just kind of a shock to the system the first time around. See, like in this, like that portion on the guitar sounds more like a ballad. Forgot about that little moment there. Wait, this might be different. It is, okay. I thought it was going into that transition again, but we just get the start to the finish. I think usually they just kind of keep looping, so we actually got a resolution at the end of that one, which is kind of new. So recently I've learned that these songs actually do reflect the characters, the bosses, whatever they're supposed to be representing very well and pretty accurately if you pay attention to the lyrics. In this case, I think I was mentally more focused on the music and just like aspects of that I thought were fun, and that's what I was talking about a lot. But the lyrics definitely did have some parts in there that I'm like, oh, even the title being Escape. So I was like, okay, there's something to do with wanting to escape through this. I'm not entirely sure exactly which phrases would reflect perfectly to the character here. I also don't know why a giant robot thing would want to escape. Maybe it was brought there against its will or held there against its will to fight and just kind of do the bidding of whoever else. I don't know Final Fantasy well enough at all to be able to piece any of that together. I'm sure there's a bunch of lore in all of these characters that I'm just purely not aware of. It's not really something I've ever focused on, though I try to break it down based on the music. For these, it's just a little bit too ambiguous for me because the songs, while seemingly connected, are also fairly innocuous a lot of the time and are just kind of a general vibe to go with the character, not necessarily a one-to-one for the story or what the emotion's supposed to be. So for this one, it did feel like some of that was in there, but for this one I feel like a lot of the stuff that would have like clued me into that were lost on me because I don't know the characters. So I kind of fail in that regard for this series just because I know I'm missing a lot of what I need to be able to figure out why that relates specifically to this character. The music though is kind of cool in a lot of ways, like how I was mentioning it's almost pop punky but at the same time more alt rock in some ways, and then it had that like more like emotional ballad style section. So I'm like, okay, there's emotion here. There's a character reflecting. There's something going on with that, you know, just kind of sitting in this moment, trying to figure out exactly what they feel and maybe trying to process, do they want to escape or how to escape potentially. Again, I was really more focused on the music for this one, not so much the lyrics. So I did kind of miss out on some of that, but the overall feeling was obviously not lost on me even through the music, which is always the sign of a great song. A lot of these ones like Be My Honey, for example, are just kind of there and I'm just like, oh, it's supposed to be a vibe, and then somebody tells me later that it's supposed to be reflective of the character and their situation and why they are that way, and then I'm just like, really? So like that's where I learned that these are supposed to be like a much more direct character reflection of the character. So it's interesting because I only recently figured that out due to people telling me about it, but I also I need to readjust my process for these videos to properly give myself the time to think about all of those potentials. Like I listened to Unleashed and I really didn't get too much out of that one, even though I probably should have. At the same time, I don't know how much I would have gotten out of it because just like this one, I'm not clued in on their backstories, and I feel like a lot of that is the crux, is the whole point for me understanding how these characters feel. So I could listen to the lyrics and pay really close attention and try my best, but I also don't know if it would actually give me that much information. But one thing I do think I picked up from this is just the vibe of the vocals. Like I said in the beginning, I thought that might have been a little bit too much with how the song was, like all those filters on the voice were just a little bit much, until I realized that I should be listening to this through the guise of it being for the character and by the character. And that's when I was like, oh wait, that actually does make a lot of sense. If the voice that's supposed to be singing this is from that robot, then of course it would be heavily affected and heavily synthesized because it's a robot singing, so to speak. So that added another layer to me, but at the same time, the lyrics just didn't pick up on them. I was really focused on the vibes of this song. It was a surprisingly nice song with a lot of emotional growth throughout it. We had that more aggressive rock stuff, almost this like angsty edge to it, but then when it transitioned, it was like out of nowhere, like I kept mentioning. So there was that cool aspect too of like kind of maybe fighting with themselves themselves, or potentially somebody else, but most likely fighting with themselves, and then having that moment of realization and reflection. And that's when that like more ballady section comes in out of nowhere, and why there may not be a transition into it, because a lot of the time when you hit that moment of clarity, when you're fighting with yourself, you don't get a transition into that moment. It just hits you like a brick, and you're like, whoa, oh, maybe I need to second guess myself, or second guess the situation I'm in, and then reflect on it. But then of course they had to transition back, so they did. But then when the song ended and I thought they were going to transition back and just start looping it, they didn't. They finished the song. The song was over. So there was a resolution in the song, which signifies that the story has come to an end. And maybe that final moment of them reflecting was their going home moment, where they like sat there and were like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to commit to this feeling. And that's why we got that ending that was a little bit more emotional, and it actually resolved very peacefully. So there is a lot to this, but I was definitely focusing more on the music itself, not the lyrics. But I really need to focus on both for these, especially if they're going to all be like this, with heavy reflections on the characters and the dynamic of their personalities, why they're there, who they are. All of this is probably nestled in there, but I also don't know if it'll be enough, because I've never played the game to actually pick up on any of it. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get more of these. I'm not entirely sure what Crosslancer wants me to get to next, but maybe it's another one of these. But either way, I think that's about all I got to say on this one. So thank you all so very much for watching. If you have another video you want me to get to from Final Fantasy or anything else, you can always leave it in the comments below. Or if like Crosslancer did, you want to guarantee that I get to something, you can always go to my Patreon or my YouTube memberships, where you can guarantee that I listen to something. Doesn't matter if it's good, if it's bad, who it's by, or what it's from. Any of it works. That's why it's a guaranteed request. But if you don't want to do any of that, maybe you just want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, you know how to do all that, and I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!